Welcome to the Guitar Shop Podcast, Season 2. Season 2, Episode 1. Unlike many other podcasts who just keep numbering their podcasts, we like television. I love television.
Wait a minute, this is Season 2, Episode 1?
This is Season 2, Episode 1.
It's a milestone, I think. Okay.
Yeah, so unlike all the other podcasts that just have hundreds of episodes in one season, we love TV, so when you buy them on DVD, you'll have to get Season 1 and Season 2.
We can charge extra, so makes sense. Yeah.
The Guitar Shop Podcast is coming to you from beautiful Eastside, Milwaukee, Wisconsin. I am Wade Stark, owner of Wade's Guitar Shop.
I'm Alex Ballard, manager of Wade's Guitar Shop.
And absent tonight is our good pal Dan, who is only...
It's like he's here. Yeah.
It is like he's here, and I almost made up a voodoo doll to sit here and play with, so we can draw Dan back in, and then he would feel it at home.
Yes,
we'd wave.
You have to use your evil powers for good. Wait, no, that doesn't make any sense.
I can't use my evil powers for good. You can check us out at the iTunes Store, the Zune Marketplace, and on Moreau, where Moreau has been a great home for a lot of viewers for the podcast. So thank you, everybody who's watching us on Moreau. Check us out here at wadesguitarshop.com. That's our little home website. Click on the podcast link. And if you have any questions, suggestions, send them to us at wadesguitarshop at
spcglobal.net.
Net. That's for Dan.
Net. For Freddie Mercury. Yeah.
Dan is no longer working in the shop. He is pursuing I guess he's going to school to pursue a career in medical technology repair. I'm not quite sure. I think he's going to be fixing heart-lung bypass machines and that kind of stuff.
Yes, iron lungs. Yeah.
I'm going to put a DiMarzio Super Distortion humbucker in your machine
MRI,
that goes ding, ding. So Dan has promised us, though, that he will make guest appearances here and there whenever it is possible. So he's already committed to a Christmas, New Year's episode where we will, for those of you who have seen that, we are going to do our $100 shopping spree extravaganza.
Yes.
So
we might do a remote shot with him, fixing an MRI machine or something.
Man in the field.
Yes.
But first tonight, I have an email to kick things off, and this is an email that we got back right around the time we shot episode 12 in the first season, and it was an email that I would have liked to have used earlier, because as soon as I got it, I thought that's a great subject, which we haven't really touched on.
Okay.
But here it goes. This is from Scott Schwolst, who sent us this email from the, quote, Back to Wood Project studio computer. So whatever that is, Scott, you shouldn't be using your boss's computer. Hello, gentlemen. I enjoy viewing your podcasts and have gained knowledge through them. I have been a guitarist for over 40 years and have seen many changes in technology. Playing both electric and acoustic guitar has presented me with many challenges over the years. Between my many acoustic playing friends, we have always had differing opinions as far as amplifying an acoustic guitar. Some prefer piezo-type transducers, either alone or with a microphone blended into the signal path. I have, as of late, preferred using just a small diaphragm condenser mic, such as the Shure SM81 for guitar, mandolin and dobro, guitar, mandolin, and dobro for live sound reinforcement. I did buy the K&K Twin Spot for my mandolin, but still prefer a single mic for true sound. I do converse with a great deal of acoustic players, all asking me what technology to use. Perhaps a podcast on acoustic amplification would be nice. That way I could just tell them to see your webpage for the answers. Scott, I love it because we have really covered a great deal of electric-related things here on the podcast, but not as much about acoustic.
True, true.
So why don't you go ahead and kick it off? What do you like in acoustic pickups? And I have some samples back here that you can refer to or not.
Sure, sure. Well, I mean, the pickup that I have in my own personal guitar is from K&K Sound, and it's a, I don't know, is that considered a piezo pickup? Or?
Well, it's in the family of piezos, but piezo is actually a little ceramic crystal that changes its polarity with string vibration from positive to negative, and actually these modern transducers that K&K make, which is this guy right here. This is the K&K Pure Western, which consists of 3 little transducers that mount on the inside of the guitar.
No. This is a guitar top, this is the inside of a guitar, and this is the bridge plate.
And these mount on the bridge plate right underneath of where the saddle would be on the top of the guitar. And what do you like about this guy?
Well, the main thing that I like about it, in having just sort of, I don't know, had to think about it a lot, you know, just because we get asked every day about what kind of pickup systems we like. What I think I like about it the best is the way it responds. When I'm playing it, I feel like I'm playing an acoustic guitar. When you amplify guitars, a lot of times the response changes. Mm-hmm. You know, the way it ceases to feel like an acoustic instrument. Right. And I think beyond just the actual what you can do with an equalizer, the sound itself, it's difficult to change the way the pickup responds. And I think I found that, like Scott was saying, the microphone thing is very natural, and that's a great way to go. The only problem with that is, I mean, as far as, you know, he's saying amplifying it, and I think, you know, in your nicer environments, a really good condenser mic is hands down the best way to go, no doubt about it. But if you move around, or if there's crowd noise, or even a stage that's reflective, if people are clapping and clinking glasses, that's going to reflect off the instrument and be re-amplified. So, you know, pickups are just more practical, and when it comes right down to it, I like the K&K just on its own. If the guitar sounds good, it's a real good practical pickup choice. You know, blending it certainly adds to the arsenal. You know, I mean, and the great thing about a blender, when we say blending it with a microphone, is what I would typically, you know, say. I mean, some people blend two different types of pickups, which we've also done, which is a cool way to go too. But you know, it's an extra tool that you can use or not. You know, as long as you have the ability to literally blend the microphone in. I personally don't do that. You know, I like the way the K&K sounds on its own.
Well, I think one of the misconceptions that a lot of people have that I've picked up on just from the questions in the shop is, you know, when do you have the mic all the way on? And, you know, these blending pickup systems probably shouldn't even allow you to go all the way to the mic. Right. Because there's almost no situation where you can use the mic all by itself, because first of all, the mic is mounted internally, so it's not going to reproduce the way a mic does, like a condenser mic on a stand outside of the instrument,
exactly.
where it's picking up the projection of the sound, which is what the human ear hears.
Right, you're hearing, I mean, that's an important thing, and which is also why, like, if you're going to use one mic, sometimes it's nice to even use a couple. But to really, when you're listening to a guitar, mostly you're hearing the top, but you're hearing what's coming off the headstock, what's coming off the fretboard, what's coming off the bridge, you know, what's bouncing off your face and your body and all that. So it's difficult to reproduce that, you know, no doubt about it. Right. And when you have the mic in the inside, it's, you know, but yes, just blending a little bit of it lends some realism to it. It captures some of the cavity resonance, which is, I think, hard to reproduce. Mm-hmm. And that's sort of nice. And sometimes you can get a little more finger attack, particularly if you play with your fingers. So I mean, you know, it generally speaking enhances it in my opinion. However, with the K&K, I don't feel like I would have to do a blender system. I think with a lot of other pickup systems, I would probably tend to like the microphone blending. But the other thing is it complicates the system and makes it a lot more expensive, you know. Right. But it definitely adds flexibility.
Well, the K&K Pure Western is, I think, has probably only been out for about 7-8 years. And the way we describe it is it sounds a lot like a mic'd guitar, but without the feedback, because it's not a microphone. It is transducers, but it has much more of a natural response. So, you know, typically when you put it in a Rosewood Dreadnought, it sounds like a Rosewood Dreadnought. You put it in a little parlor guitar, it sounds like a little parlor guitar. You know, but one of the things that you pointed out to me one time, somebody was in the store, and it really kind of, you know, set in with me, was when somebody's playing their acoustic guitar and it's plugged in, and you hear the acoustic guitar first, and then as you bring up the amp, it just sounds like their guitar is getting louder, as opposed to all of a sudden it starts sounding like a different guitar.
An acoustic electric.
Right.
Yeah, right, yeah.
And that's one of the things that we dig about the K&K. And there's a number of other companies who have come out with really good, affordable, passive pickups that have that kind of natural tone.
A lot of options.
Yeah, LR Baggs I know has what's the I-Beam?
Yeah, they have a number of different pickups,
right.
But they have one like kind of like the K&K.
Yeah.
I can't remember if it's the I-Beam or not. Yeah, and then there was that one I should have done a little more research. But yeah, I mean, I don't know why. I think it's almost odd that in the last 5 to 10 years, acoustic pickup technology has just gotten revolutionized. I'm not exactly sure why it's
that's kind of
so latter day.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think it's important even to, you know, that we didn't put together a list of all of these pickups, because the idea is a number of companies have put out similar products to the K&K, which is just the one that we're talking about right now. But it's amazing what these pickups do, you know, for how affordable they are. And I remember back when I opened the shop 20 years ago, there was not that much available. You know, the Martin thin line was kind of one of the only undersaddle ones. You know, LR Baggs was just kind of starting to do their undersaddle around that time. And there were still guys coming into the shop that wanted installed in their guitars the Barkus Berry Frap.
Frap, right, yeah, or the Feather. Was that, I don't know if that,
yes, I mean, everybody was clinging to 70s technology that somehow, you know, they'd gotten in their mind is the greatest thing ever made. But no, this new stuff now that's affordable from all these companies is fantastic. You almost can't go wrong as long as you install it properly. But one of the other things I was going to point out is that I dig about the K&K that I personally have sort of gotten away from in my personal tastes is the K&K, because it is mounted inside the guitar on the bridge plate, does not interfere with the transmission of the vibration from the strings through the saddle and through the bridge and into the top. But most pickup designs go back to more like this idea, which is an undersaddle pickup. So you have your bridge, and this goes down in the slot, and your saddle sits on top of there. So you've got this piece of material that's now interfering, or kind of, you know, getting in the way of that,
changing it.
Yeah, that vibration between, if you have a good bone saddle and a rosewood or an ebony bridge, now you've stuck a little piece of, you know, kind of ceramic, you know, a little bit of foil.
Yeah, hard to tell its resonant properties, really. Yeah.
And you know, inherently they do give you a really great amplified sound. This is the part of the Fishman Infinity Matrix, which is just a little onboard guy, combination N-pin jack, which has a preamp attached to it, volume and tone control, and a switchable kind of a bass roll-off switch, which so your controls sit right inside of your sound hole here, and your pickup goes underneath of the bridge saddle. You know, still a really reliable and great sounding pickup. And one of the things that the people who still really stick to the Fishman stuff love about them is they're consistent. Every pickup sounds almost exactly the same in no matter what guitar you put them in.
Right.
They're not after really trying to amplify the really unique differences of how every guitar is made. They're trying to give you a really great amplified sound that's going to be
no
consistent.
matter what guitar you put it in.
Right.
Yeah. And that's why I said, you know, if it's a nice sounding guitar, put the K&K in it. or I've often said that, I guess, you know, and if you have a guitar that's humble acoustically, but you enjoy the way it plays, and you want it amplified, go for the Fishman. You're going to get that sort of tried and true, you know, sound from it, I think.
Right.
But I guess at the end of the day, you know, in the studio, yes, the microphone's always, I don't care how good the pickup is, the microphone's always going to win. But it's just so impractical live, you know, unless you use it just in the context of a blending system or something like that. And then the preamp, you know, is really important that you select with the pickup too.
Oh, right, and yeah, I mean, we'll probably cover quite a bit more on this later. I mean, our preamps are right here, but I mean, everything from real basic little preamps that just have a couple bands of EQ to, you know, a monster like this Fishman here, which is a combination preamp, a DI, digital tuner, and then it has modeling built into it with mic emulation and downloadable factory settings that you can hook it up to your computer with a USB cable and download all kinds of different digital settings from Fishman, and you can even make, you know, horrible pickup sound pretty amazing or something like that.
Exactly.
So there's great stuff out there. If you are blending with the mics, you know, just always keep in mind you're probably not going to be blending much more than 20 or 30% of the mic in most situations, because you're just going to get too much feedback.
And that helps. I mean, that's all you need to do to get the effect of it.
Right.
Because even if you do use the mic on its own, you'll find that it doesn't really sound that good on its own in the cavity of the guitar. Or at the very least, you got your work cut out for you, sort of EQing it into sounding good. But just blending a little bit of it, you know, can really capture the specific sound of the guitar. So
the topic of acoustic mics and pickups kind of led me to where I wanted to go next in the podcast, and that was, again, we haven't covered a great deal on acoustics, so I wanted to talk about the difference between cheap acoustics, moderately priced acoustics, and really nice acoustics, because it's a very common thing in the shop for somebody coming in to buy a gift or buy their first acoustic guitar, or even to step up to something a little bit nicer. And you know, most people just have never gotten an education about it, and that's one of the things we try to do here, so you can make a pretty educated decision about what you're going to get, particularly as a gift. So with the holiday season coming up, this is going to be your crash course in how to pick out an acoustic guitar. And it starts off with the import all laminated acoustic. This particular guy is an Alvarez. It's the model RD110. It is all laminated construction, plywood top, plywood mahogany, laminated mahogany back and sides. And these are under 200 bucks. But it's a nice sounding acoustic, and typically under $200, that's all you're going to get. You're going to get something that's, you know, very likely made in China, and it's going to be all laminated woods. That being said, you know, try and buy from somebody who you trust, so you get a halfway decent brand, and you get something along these lines that has a straight neck, a decent company backing it up, and sounds pretty good. I mean, strum it a little bit. This is a decent sounding little tripod.
still going.
Now, as you jump up through the line of somebody like Alvarez, Washburn, Yamaha, so on, around 250 bucks, you're going to hit solid spruce tops. And explain the advantages of jumping to the next level there, solid spruce top.
Well, you know, solid spruce is, you know, what, you know, any nicer guitar is going to have a solid spruce top. You know, as opposed to having thin layers of spruce glued together, essentially plywood. It's just more resonant, and I don't know, what else can one say?
Well, and it'll open up too with time.
Oh yeah,
I mean,
over time.
The great thing with solid tone woods is, you know, the more the wood vibrates, you know, particularly if you're vibrating it to desirable frequencies,
right.
the wood fibers will vibrate and sort of eventually align, you know, along with the vibrations of, you know, assuming that your guitar is in tune and it's vibrating and being played quite a bit, those fibers align, and that's what's called opening up, and your guitar will start to sound richer with time, but this really only occurs with solid tone woods.
Well, and the top, one thing that I generally say is that everything matters on an acoustic guitar sonically.
Yeah.
Has to varying degrees, but the top's 80% of it. I'm just throwing that out there as a number,
right.
But the top is the biggest portion of it. The devil's in the details, but Yeah, I mean, having a solid top is a very sensible upgrade. To go from a laminated top to a solid top, like Wade was saying, is really only a $25 to $100 difference, depending on who you're going with or whatever. And if you're on a budget, something like that guitar we played, or I just played, is sort of amazingly good. There's a lot of junk in that price range, so you really have to kind of let your ears and hands do the
going back to episode 1 from the first season, where we talked about guitars being sold at Target and Walmart and Walgreens.
They're not going to sound that good.
No, or these Estebans or similar things like that are sold on late night infomercials. Which
is, again, just to reinforce that what Wade was saying is, if you go with a dealer that knows a little bit about it, hopefully they're going to have brands that are, that they've done a little bit of the homework for you. And that they've, in our case, we really like the Alvarez line, but there's other decent quality companies in that price range, but also a lot of junk. But you go to a solid spruce top, it's not a huge jump up, whether you're talking about a Yamaha or a Washburn or anything.
So you jump up to, say, $300, $400, $500. What are you going to get then? So what's your advantage when you make the jump from the $250, $300 area to $300, $400, $500?
I guess. If you were going to look at that price range, one thing you could look at would be country of origin. Like you said, mostly in the sub $300 range, you're going to be seeing mainly Chinese guitars.
Right.
Most of the world's guitars are made in China. We have a lot of used guitars that come from the Lacido company that makes Seagull, Simon & Patrick, Art & Lutherie. Those are all made in Canada. So there's some guitars that you could look at that are made in North America, and you're almost at the doorstep of where Martin starts out with their X series, which is I guess mostly Mexican made now, but actually very good quality, and you've got a major name backing it up. And the other things I guess you would look at is visual aspects of it. A lot of times you can get a solid top guitar that sounds pretty good, but maybe might look pretty basic, and maybe you want some sunburst or binding. Or you want to trick it out a little bit. That's one of the things you'll see. And then, you're probably at the sort of the base level of acoustic pickups, too. Or, you might even be able to get into a guitar with a pretty decent Fishman. I think we have some Alvarez's with built-in Fishman preamps in the 350 range.
So you're hitting kind of the category of low-end Canada, the low-end Seagull, Art & Lutherie, Simon & Patrick.
Yeah.
Right, good stuff, very, very plain, simple, understated, but North American made, and that's kind of nice. On the kind of import end, like this is high-end, again from Alvarez, but with all of the import companies, you're going to have guitars that are, between $300 and $800 that are going to be, when you hit about $500, you're going to get into all solid tone woods. So when you're talking about an import guitar in the $500 kind of ballpark, it's going to be a pretty darn flashy looking guitar. You're going to get nice inlays. This one has maple binding, real good looking mahogany for the back and sides. I mean, it's a very well decorated instrument.
Solid Engelmann spruce top. This is kind of a premium grade. If you can sort of look at how brightly colored it is and how symmetrical the grain is, this is kind of a nicer premium grade solid top. Yeah.
But still Chinese made. So when you do make the jump then to like say a Martin, now here is a low-end American made Martin. This is the new 1 series, which Martin years ago did make a 1 series, which this is not the same as. This is now a body that is all solid tone woods, but it uses a laminated neck. Show the back of the neck. This is no longer a one-piece mahogany neck, but it's now a neck that's made out of laminated pieces of wood. So you can see all the stripes on it. So it enables them to save these huge pieces of mahogany that would normally, add quite a bit to the cost of making the neck, and allow them to make it more affordably. So you can get into, now this is an American, not one of the Mexican X series, for a little over $800, or under $800. Hard shell case included. So that's kind of where you make the jump into American guitars. Guild, Taylor,
Santa Cruz, Collins. Oh wait.
Yeah, I don't think they're going to have $700 guitars.
I see what you're saying.
I'm talking still on the sub $1,000 kind of thing. Every Guild and Taylor certainly have their low-end series that are kind of in the same price range. So there is real plain American-made guitars. Usually the advantage to the American stuff is it's made from a company that has distinction. You know, they've been making guitars for a very long time, and you're going to get something that really sounds fantastic and plays wonderfully, but not very fancy. I mean, this is satin finish. You know, no fancy inlays or anything like this. This is just, you know, an affordable working man's Martin.
Sounds great.
But it sounds, yeah, absolutely amazing.
Plays great too, by the way, which is hard to judge on camera, but yeah, I mean, this is really tough to beat in this price range.
So typically, you know, when you go above about $800, you better take the time to sit down with somebody at a shop and learn what you're getting above $800, because then you're going to be jumping up into mahogany versus rosewood, scallop braces versus non-scallop braces, and we could talk on and on and on. We could easily do an hour show about all of the differences between guitars that are $800 and guitars that are $8,000.
True that.
But
yeah.
Go ahead.
Well, I just was going to say, if people don't know what scallop braces are, these are the braces that support the top, and when a lot of companies sort of have their own way of sort of carving these braces down so that they're as thin as they possibly can be, and still support the guitar over the long term, but to give it more resonance and also to alter the frequencies of the guitar. So, right, you know, once you get above that $800 range, you can really get specific with what you want the instrument to do.
Okay.
So.
Cool. Thank you, Alex. So I wanted to also read a couple of emails we got before we head out of here.
Cool.
Because we've been getting a lot of great response from viewers all around the world. And I think one of these days we're going to put a map up here and we're going to start sticking pins in it. Maybe we can do a green screen or something. But this particular one comes from Gavin Downey of Auckland, New Zealand.
Oh, awesome.
And I know you got some good friends.
Friends in New Zealand. Yeah, Bruce and Marguerite, if you're watching this. Yeah. Hello, and Ben.
So why don't you read us out here?
All right, let's see here. Just wanted to let you guys know you have a huge fan base of the podcast all the way down here in the bottom of the globe. I love having your podcast to listen to whilst working. I'm a guitar tech roadie. All right, right on, brother. I love learning new tips. The podcasts are a hoot. Next time I get back through the States with a band, I'm going to try my hardest to get back through your wonderful city and pop in and say hi in the flesh. Keep up the great shows. A fan, Gavin Downey. Well, he sounds happy as Larry, as it were.
And he sent us his picture of his business card. So it's right here.
Okay, cool.
So thank you, Gavin. No questions there. So I mean, I just wanted to
that's
give
cool.
him a little shout out there. But we got another email. Actually, an email. This is not what we call an email.
What is this? I don't even know what that is.
We got right. Some woman came into the shop.
Some sort of digital paper.
And handed me this, and we couldn't figure out what the heck it is. There appears to be some sort of colorful thing here with squiggles on it.
A postcard. Yes. Now it's coming back to me. Yeah.
And it's got this. We'll
cool
show a close up of this. This
yeah.
cool postcard you called it.
I think so. Yeah. I know that's a white penguin on there. I think. Yeah.
The Gretsch White Penguin and the Chet Atkins 6120. Yes.
Good eye, Baldog. Yeah.
Hey guys, great job on the podcast. You hit on a lot of cool stuff. I would bet you all have a lot of fun at the shop. What's your take on pickups? And this is one of those torturous questions that, and I mean torturous in a great way, because you open up the can of worms of talking about pickups and we are going to go buck wild. Single, humbuckers, or good old P90s? I've changed my pickups so much, and I assume everyone else does also. Thanks, Gino Ames of Hope, Maine. And this is our first ever postcard. So, it's so easy to just throw that question at you, Alex.
Well, I mean, first of all, why
pickups?
does he have to decide between those three things? You got to have all three.
Yeah, exactly.
Half of my guitars have humbucker singles and P90s, and a P90 is generally a single coil pickup, but a very distinct one. No question about it. Wow, I don't know. I mean, I have lots of pickups that I just love, that I think are probably good in a lot of different kinds of guitars, but literally, I almost just kind of like taking the guitar and listening to it, and if it sounds great, leave it alone. But that's rare for me in regards to pickups. But usually I kind of go, okay, well this pickup's too muddy in the neck, and this pickup in the bridge needs to be more articulate or something like that. And then that's sort of how I base the choice of pickup for the or what kind of gig it's for too. You know, if you say, well, this is going to be my country's spanky guitar versus this is going to be my big Gretsch chord Bigsby guitar. You want it for different reasons. Or this is my blues machine or metal machine or whatever it is. So you can't really. That's a difficult thing. A little windmill action there with my but just for example, I'm my heritage. I have a Pearly Gates in the bridge from Seymour Duncan, which is a great Les Paul pickup. But in this particular guitar, I want to put an Alnico 4 in there, which is that what it is? Yeah,
Alnico 2 or Alnico 5?
Alnico 2, I think it is called. Oh, I better do a little research. But, yeah, I think it's the Alnico 2, right?
Yeah.
That's that sort of, yeah. So the Seymour Duncan Alnico 2 is just a little darker than the Pearly Gates. So, I mean, that little change right there is, I think, where the guitar needs to go. So I wouldn't say put an Alnico 2 in everything you can get your hands on, but, there are situations, certain guitars. That's what's great about having aftermarket pickups, is that you can actually select something. Seymour Duncan might make, 15, 20 humbuckers, God knows how many single coil Strat pickups and Tele pickups, and all sorts of miscellaneous stuff.
Well, we have in previous episodes talked a bit about pickups, and we've touched a little bit on. I know I did a segment once about how a pickup is made, and when you're saying Alnico 2, a little refresher here. Alnico magnets, aluminum, nickel, and cobalt. It's an aloe aloe.
Oh, so soft. Yeah.
I always put aloe on before I scribbage.
Scribbage, a little scribbaging. Yes. Always scribbage your pickups too before you put them in, and wax dip them in chicken grease.
Especially in New Zealand, because when you flip the world upside down, New Zealand
is at the top of the world.
Yes, exactly. Aluminum nickel. What are you throwing me totally?
Cobalt.
Aluminum nickel cobalt alloy is the most desirable alloy for magnetic guitar pickups. And when you first create an Alnico magnet, it's at the magnetic strength of what they call Alnico 5, and over time a magnet weakens, and when it weakens it becomes Alnico 2, and that's its more stable state. Mm-hmm. And when the magnet is weaker, it tends to make the pickup sound a little bit rounder and a little more thumpy, which is typically what you hear on real old 57 and 62 Strats and so on, because those pickups have aged.
Or old Les Pauls. Are those Alnico magnets in PAFs or ceramic?
That's a good question. I think in old PAFs, they are Alnico.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, right, they're definitely not ceramic. So what you hear on old guitars is that more kind of rounder, deeper, thumpier tone that you don't generally tend to get on reissues, at least not until recently, because most of the reissue guitars that Fender has made and Gibson has made, and most of the companies that made reissue pickups, particularly in the when they started doing it in the 80s, they were using a stronger magnet, which tended to make the pickup sound more harsh and more shrill.
Absolutely. Yeah.
But now you have your choice. I mean, there's tons of pickups out there with Seymour Duncan and DiMarzio and companies like Rio Grande and Lawler and Barden. I mean, not Barden.
Well, Barden doesn't Barden make pickups too? Or?
Oh,
maybe
I don't.
We'll have to look into that.
But there's a number of companies making really great pickups, and it's not a super expensive way to mod your guitar. So I mean, you have just tons of options. Whether you go single coil, humbucking, or a P90 type of single coil, which is typically what most people call a soap bar, a big wide fat the size of a Hershey bar or a Snicker bar kind of pickup. What you're mostly going to get with single coils that you have to consider is 60 cycle hum and noise and buzzing. Yep. Single coil pickups, really do make noise, or they amplify noise that they pick up. And if you run them through distortion pedals or old tube amps,
or compressors,
you're definitely going to accentuate that buzzing and humming, which is the great thing about a humbucking pickup.
But we love them. We still love our single
Absolutely.
Coils. And I mean, that's what I would say, is that I have lots of guitars with humbuckers, and that's great. And I have lots of guitars with single coils. And, you just turn your volume control down in between songs, or you get a noise gate or something like the Electro Harmonix hum debugger, or you just live with it, But Well, and I was just going to say on the magnet thing too. I like some ceramic magnet pickups sometimes too. I mean, you really have to pick the right pickup for the right job.
Right.
So. Yeah.
Oh yeah, definitely. I mean, there are situations where that type of I think the Duncan Invader is one of those ones that has a really strong ceramic magnet in it, a unique pole piece designed. But the guys who play Duncan Invaders love Duncan Invaders,
Right.
So
or is Super Distortion Humbucker? That's a ceramic magnet, right?
I think that is a ceramic. Like the DiMarzio Super Distortion Humbucker.
Yeah, high output.
We'll show all these pickups.
A lot of crunch. You can pummel a Marshall with one of those real nice. Yeah.
I mean, I definitely, though, think that the P90 is the noisiest pickup ever made. I don't know what it is about that pickup that there's just no way to shield a guitar with noisy P90s in it and have that guitar, play nicely. You just have to play a chord and don't stop making music
sound
until you are done with the show, and then roll your volume off and put that guitar away.
But that's the P90 is such a benchmark pickup and such a distinct tone. That's why we keep going back to it. And like the Filtertron from Gretsch, again, that's such a distinctive tone. There's so many different ones, but I think it's important to note that these aftermarket pickups really arose out of a necessity. Yeah. I think a lot of the American companies, when they started mass producing, really sort of lost the classic way of making pickups. And later, like you said, when they made the reissues, they put them on a meter and said 7.5K or whatever. Yeah. And that's all they knew about it. They didn't know what was in the guts of it, really, how it was wound, what magnets were used, those kinds of things. And again, not to be an old fogey, but we live in such a great time now for pickups. There's just the sky's the limit with tone. I mean, there's just so many great options. Yeah.
Well, I don't specifically know the timeline of aftermarket pickups, but Seymour Duncan has to be in that history somewhere. Because how can you not think about the whole idea of aftermarket pickups without going back to the early Seymour Duncans? And, to have a guy like that, one of the reasons why I think Seymour Duncan is such a great company is because you have somebody like the guy, Seymour Duncan, at the helm, running machines, running the day-to-day operations. He is, a mastermind behind the product that he puts out. He's not somebody that came up with an idea and now he sits behind a desk all day.
I can be we can do the research after the fact, but the way I sort of remember it was that, or at least part of one of the histories of Duncan was that Jeff Beck had a Les Paul, a 1960 Les Paul or something.
Right.
And either the pickup was blown out or something like that, but I think Seymour Duncan fixed it for him or something like that. And he said, well, is there any way you can gas it up a little? And they took an old PAF or something out of one of his Les Pauls and just wound the living heck out of it, and it became the JB, the Jeff Beck model. I mean, I don't know if that was the nucleus of the company, but I think that's what a lot of guys were saying was, hey, I had this old guitar, this old Strat, this old Les Paul or whatever, and now I trashed that one, I got another one now, and it doesn't sound the same. What happened, Right. And, as far as the timeline, I would imagine it was right about the time that, in the 70s when they really started cranking out the guitars and they tried to machine wind them and all of that, I know it was, the pickups really were kind of crappy for a while there, I hate to say it, but, or at least inconsistent.
Considering everything else that was going on in the 70s, thank God now we don't have brass parts on all of our electric guitars, which was one of the other great 70s innovations.
I still get a request for a brass nut once in a while. It's just like, really? Wow.
That's all I got tonight, unless you have anything you'd like to throw in.
No, I was just going to say hello to all of our friends out there in Radioland.
Thanks for coming back. This has been Season 2, the first episode of the Guitar Shop podcast. I want to thank my good man Ed, and I want to thank Jocelyn. Dan, I hope you're not driving yourself crazy out there taking care of baby doing your homework and interning and all that crazy stuff, but he will be in for a podcast or two around the first of the year.
Cool. I said miss you, dude.
Miss you, dude.
Miss you, dude.
Miss you, dude. All right, we miss you, dude.
Wow.
Be sure Be sure to check us out at wadeguitarshop.com.
Don't
Send
mess
us
with Wade, he'll throw a cue card through your eye. Yeah.
send us questions to wadeguitarshop@sbcglobal.net. And that's it, Alex and Joe.
Okay, good. Yeah.
We'll see you all again soon.
All right.
Yep. And yep.
Peace.
Oh.
And then the sound.
Yeah, that looks good. You'll get more color that way, right? More color saturation.
Yes.
That's what I say to color saturation.